So, you've beaten the campaign, dabbed into Monoliths, crushed a few bosses, and think you've seen everything Last Epoch has to offer? Not even close. Welcome to the real Last Epoch, the monolith of fate, the endgame the pros don't talk about. This is where corruption makes or breaks your build, where timelines hide efficiency hacks, and where legendary potential decides if you're holding god tier loot or vendor trash. Today, we're cracking open the Veteran Playbook to endgame progression, sharing the tips, tricks, and dirty little secrets the pros don't talk about. And trust me, one of these tips will flip how you farm forever. This is a follow-up to my previous video on how to get started in the endgame as promised. So if you haven't checked out that video yet as a new player, feel free to start there. Now, enough with the chit chat, let's get to it. First off, let's talk about endgame progression. Once you enter the Monolith of Fate, you're presented with this gigantic map containing a bunch of islands called timelines. Think of the Monolith as the library, and the timelines are the books inside the library, each with its own story, maps, and rewards. Your first goal, unlock empowered versions of these timelines. Now, why should you care about empowered timelines? Well, we'll get to that in a second. But before that, let's talk about how to navigate this library without getting lost in filler episodes. You see, every timeline offers a pool of blessings when you beat its boss. You pick one of 3 the first time, and if you rerun that timeline, you unlock unique blessings you can't find anywhere else. But here's the secret season players never tell you. The right side timelines are where the S tier blessings live. Those on the left, mostly side quests. If you want blessings that boost your damage, resistances, or loot drops in a meaningful way, path down to the right side of your echo web first. In other words, when you're sprinting towards empowered timelines, stick right, grab the juiciest blessings first, and skip the filler. Now look, if you're still living in normal timelines, spending day and night farming them, please, do yourself a favor and stop. You're basically farming scrap. This is where corruption starts climbing, where the loot tables get juiced, and suddenly, every echo has a chance to speed out the kind of loot people screenshot flex on Reddit. Do you want to target farm 4 LP uniques? Wanna farm gold roll exalts that will make your friends blush? Looking for those shiny uniques everyone is after? Want bosses that actually test your build instead of tickling it? Seeking that dopamine hit from bot clenching encounters? Should I keep going? Empowered is the only place any of this happens. Without it, you dumpster diving, my friend. But with it, you swimming in power. And trust me, once you step into empowered, you never look back. Each empowered timeline holds a unique reward pool you can target farm. To unlock this access, all you gotta do is clear normal timelines once. And as mentioned before, you want to stick to the right side of the monolith. You don't even have to push them high. Just beat their boss, collect your blessings, and move on. It's like gathering Dragon Balls. Once you got all you need, you unlock empowered versions of all timelines with a baseline of 100 corruption. One interesting change that was made to how you unlock empowered timelines this season is that you only need to clear one of the topmost level 90 timelines here to get into empowered timelines. This saves you a lot of time, as in previous seasons, you needed to complete 3 level 90 timelines before getting into empowered. So you literally have no excuse now. Jump into empowered timelines as soon as possible and start reaping those juicy rewards. And if you're thinking to yourself, bruh, those areas are way higher than my character level, fear not. The real difficulty scaling comes from corruption and not enemy level per se. This unfortunately is what baits people into farming levels in normal timelines in order to be at level to tackle higher level timelines. I mean, sure, you might get smacked around a couple of times if you're not ready for it, but most leveling builds these days are able to take on this challenge even with lower character levels. In other words, do not waste more time than necessary in normal timelines. Get in, get blessed, and get empowered. Now here's where things get spicy. Corruption. This is what determines the quality of your loot and how much experience you gain, while making your encounters harder by adding extra modifiers to your encounters. Normal timelines start at 0 corruption with a cap of 50, while empowered timelines begin with 100 corruption and scale infinitely. That's why you feel the leap in difficulty and rewards as soon as you graduate to empowered. pushing corruption higher is actually easier than you think. Here's the deal. Inside the web of echoes in your timelines, you'll see stability nodes. Stability is your ticket to the timeline boss, with nodes further off center giving you more stability. Once you defeat the timeline boss, you get a stack of Gates of Orobis, which can be consumed by killing a Shade of Orobis to give you more corruption. The Shade of Orobis echoes are always at the edge of your web, so pick a side and push towards them. You can consume up to 4 Gates of Orobis by killing a Shade, with more corruption gained per Gaze consumed. So you want to make sure you have at least 4 stacks before you face a Shade of Orobis to maximize how much corruption you gain. A very important thing to remember though, is to never kill a Shade before killing a timeline boss. You see, defeating a Shade resets your echo web entirely, so if you haven't taken out the timeline boss first, all that stability farming goes up in smoke. Think of it like flipping back to chapter 1 just when you just reached the climax. Yeah, painful, I know, because I've done it. Okay, let's get real for a second. We all know farming stability can be a pain. Repeatedly killing timeline bosses to stack Gaze is tedious, and pathing your timeline to the edge before facing a Shade of Orobis can be annoying. But get this, what if I told you there's a trick speed farmers use to expedite this process tenfold? This is the same method I use to zoom past 1000 corruption, and it revolves around 2 items, the Temporal Keystone and the Harbinger's Needle. The Temporal Keystone is a new addition to Season 3. This consumable key sits in the top right side of your stability meter. Press here to consume it, and you instantly gain 150 to 210 stability with no echo clearing required. They are easy to find just by killing things, so you stockpile them just by playing. Harbinger's Needle on the other hand, are a unique idol that drops from Harbingers and breaks when you kill a timeline boss, granting you extra Gaze of Orobis. In short, it turns a boss kill into 4 or more gazes instead of 1. See what we cooking here? No? Don't fret my guy, here we go. Step 1, pop your Temporal Keystones to gain stability in your timeline and unlock the timeline boss echo. Step 2, equip a Harbinger's Needle in one of your idle slots before entering the timeline boss arena. This ensures you get more than 1 Gaze of Orobis by killing that boss. Next step, choose the option to summon a Harbinger upon killing the timeline boss. You don't really have to do this to consume the needle and gain extra stacks, but since killing a Harbinger drops these needles, doing this pretty much refunds the needle instead of entirely consuming it. Step 4, farm at least 8 Gaze of Orobis. The reason why we do this is because once you have 8 stacks, the next echo you complete instantly spawns a Shade of Orobis echo. This means you no longer have to travel to the very edge of your timeline to spawn this echo and kill the Shade. Now of course, kill the Shade, harvest corruption, and repeat. Oh, one last thing. Remember that dying to the Shade of Orobis costs you 1 Gaze. So play smart. Pop your Keystones, slay the boss with a needle, stack up your Gazes, then dive into the Shade for a big corruption payday. As previously discussed, defeating the Shade of Orobis while holding multiple stacks of Gaze adds a buckload of corruption to your timeline. This makes enemies tougher, but your loot also gets a lot juicier. You can expect roughly 5% more chance for legendary potential drops at 100 corruption, 10% at 300, and 14% at 600. However, just because you can push 600 corruption and beyond doesn't mean that you should. At 200 corruption you already have the ability to unlock all Shade exclusive unique drops, and 300 corruption is usually the sweet spot where difficulty and loot balance out. Past 700 corruption, the returns are tiny, so unless you speedrunning for a good time, or have a build that can comfortably and consistently push high corruption with ease, like the ones I showcase on my channel, park yourself around 300 to 400 corruption, or 500 maximum if you're trying to farm Uber Aberoth, and only push higher if you can do so without sacrificing speed. This is even more important if you're playing hardcore. So now you've juiced one of your timelines to high corruption, but jumping into another timeline feels like starting over? Well, I have some good news. If your highest timeline is about 300 corruption for instance, stepping into a new Empower timeline and clearing a single echo spawns a Shade echo next to it and boosts your corruption straight to 396. The bonus corruption gain is usually 95% of the difference between your highest corruption and the current timeline corruption. Therefore, the smart way of going about this is to push one timeline high, ideally a timeline that holds boss-specific uniques relevant to your build, then use these catch-up mechanics to bring every other timeline up to speed pretty fast. But what if you push your corruption too far and the shade is clapping your cheeks? Well, in empowered timelines, you find a corruption reduction echo right at the start of the timeline, and this is your safety net. Clearing this echo opens a statue offering 3 options. Just remember, you cannot take empowered timelines below 100 corruption, and lowering corruption also lowers the quality of your loot. So use these options when you hit a ceiling on your build, or if you're farming bosses at specific corruption level. Otherwise, embrace the chaos, my friend. And that's all for today, fellas. From unlocking timelines like a pro, to turbocharging your corruption and knowing when to hit the brakes. Use these tools to jumpstart your empowered journey, focus your corruption where it matters, and avoid pushing so high you're just punishing yourself. But remember, Etera always has another secret waiting. We haven't even touched the Woven Echo tree, crafting those juicy God Roll legendaries, character leveling shortcuts, or even the next wave of Season 3 shenanigans. But I ain't trying to have you sit here for an hour listening to me yapping. So if that sounds like your jam, drop a comment and let me know what you want to see. Who knows? Maybe I'll turn this into a full video series if there's enough hype and interest. If you learn anything new, let me know in the comments and feel free to drop your own tips on anything I missed covering in this video. Smash that like so other travelers can find this guide, and hit subscribe if you enjoy my content. Your support means the world to me and keeps this journey going. Until we meet again, stay stylish, stay untouchable, and may your crits always be juicy.